Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast,
a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, and anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Well, one interesting point is I don't think dog owners know that dogs are capable of deciphering rules from different environments. However, they notice it all the time, right? Like, you know, how many times does a dog owner go like, well, the dog's doing great because you're here, you know? And so okay, the only new variable to this was that I showed up. So now your dog on their best behavior, or the dog's doing great now that he's back at the kennel that he was trained at. Right. And the funny thing is they see that and they're so they understand that it's possible. However, they don't necessarily know how to create it for themselves. Right. They don't necessarily know how to expect self-control and patience. Like my angle on socialization is always about self-control, right? Like the key to self-control and patience, that's the stuff that keeps us away from jumping into our primitives, right? Like if we weren't taught please and thank you and how to share and taught, you know, not to raise our voice, if we weren't taught those things as in essence, regulating arousal and manners and boundaries and limits and all that stuff, we would all be pretty primitive, right? We would be more like dogs than you think, right? And some people turn into that when they drink a little too much, you know? You can either be a playful drunk or an angry drunk. But generally speaking, we lose a lot of those inhibitions the more you drink or if you're under the influence, right? And so you can kind of see that play out with dogs, right? If they don't have the proper manners or self-control, it's really hard to share or coexist or share space or whatever privileges, whatever it might be. So that's always my number one key when explaining socialization, because a lot of people confuse it with play.
Exactly.
Right? They think socialization has to do with play.
Right. It's automatically playtime.
Yeah. Usually those dogs are playing at a high state of arousal until they burn out. And that's what they think socialization is. And so very similar, my explanation to clients is just, who taught you to socialize? And then they go, oh, my parents. And I go, exactly. And how did they teach you to socialize? Oh, they taught you social skills. Oh, and the social skills are so we don't kill each other. Right. So the reason your dog is fighting a dog at the dog park is because he lacks social skills. And how's he going to learn those things at home? Right. And I always make the explanation. I was like, you can always tell the mom at the supermarket who has control over her kids at home and who doesn't. Right. There's that mom who's like, I think you do such a good impression of a really frustrated Latin mom. Yeah.
Are you asking me to do?
Yeah, do what?
Okay. This was my mom when we were kids. Okay, I swear I was a good kid. Except my mom doesn't listen to my damn podcast. So
neither does mine.
So, yeah. So my mom, at the store, she was just immediately frazzled. You know, hey mom, what the fuck do you want? It's like, mom, can I have some Skittles? Oh my god, no, you fucking bug! Go get the, you know, and she would just be immediately annoyed, you know. But I find it interesting because to this day, I'm 28 now, right? So now when I see my mom, the conversation is different. Now it's her with my younger sisters or our my nieces and nephews and her grandkids, you know. So so I still get to see this, but I'm not part of it now. And now I'm like I don't understand why you're so frustrated, because handling kids is really easy, you know. Because I'll take them to the store if I get there. If you see family, they're like, oh my god, he's here, you know. I want to go with you to the store, and I'm like, all right, whatever, you know, jump in the car. But it's really not that hard to control them. It's just my mom immediately gets frazzled.
And I noticed that impatient.
Right, and because she got impatient and just became ungrounded in her energy, oh my god, you know, you naturally just, I noticed that the kids don't listen to her because she's frazzled. Whereas in her head, you know, and in any, you know, Hispanic, I guess, household person, because I was like this too when I was younger. In your head, it's if I'm louder and make more of a point, then they're gonna respect my point. I'm throwing the gauntlet, right? The kids are just look at you like you're fucking crazy. I'm not gonna listen to you.
Yeah, you're nagging all the time.
Right. So, you know, whenever I talk to my nieces and nephews or little brothers and whatever, I just talk to them and they listen to me this, you know. And it's the funniest thing because my mom gets so butthurt, you know, and I'm like, Mom, just talk to them. What are you yelling at them for, you know? But it is fascinating. You have to be able to. It also kind of ties into the teaching of manners, because you don't do what your mom says, you do what your mom does. Right. So if in this situation, and I have very similar situations with my clients as you do with Kuma, if the mom can't relax, that dog, good luck. right?
Yeah,
So
it's not relaxing. Yeah.
it becomes our job to teach the mom how to be calm enough and to understand why it's important to calm yourself down in
Right.
order to relax your dog.
Right.
Otherwise, you
Right.
create the circumstance that you're afraid of.
100%. And I think that's why also like advocating for your dog is super important, right?
Right.
If we go on like how a lot of the balanced dog trainers, we focus a lot on advocating for the dog. So this means stop giving a shit so much about what you want the dog to do and actually take consideration of what the dog wants to do. Right.
Exactly.
And maybe your dog doesn't want to say hi to that dog on the leash. Maybe your dog doesn't want to, do whatever it is, just because you want them to do. Something as simple as creating space on a leash. Something as simple as asking the dog to redirect the dog versus correct the dog. Right, just something that simple. Again, all of this is context based, but advocating, like, what would be some examples for advocating for you?
Well, my favorite example is my personal dog, and before I explain the example, I'll say this: the way that I would best describe advocating for the dog is consistently doing the things you need to do to make sure that your dog knows they can trust you. So my example is this: I have 3 dogs. And I always have 1 to 2 foster dogs. So I'll have like between 4 and 5 dogs at any given moment. One of my personal dogs' name is Simba. And he's a pitty. He's about 7 years old. And he's my only dog of 3 that is like legitimately, I would say, just not social. But here's the kicker. I've owned him for years. He's very obedient. He knows his stuff. I can have him around other dogs and I'm confident he'll be good, right? Like I can put him around client dogs, and I know he's not gonna like go after them or something, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't risk it. But even though I know he would be good, I don't do it, and it's not because I don't trust him. It's because I know he doesn't like it. So if my dog, who can be good around other dogs, doesn't enjoy being around other dogs, why would I torture him by making him be around other dogs? That's advocating for your dog. And by that same token, I have a dog, River. River's like almost 10 now, man.
Wow.
And I know. And he's more of a shy dog. Like if I take him walking and somebody's like, oh, some people are just really terrible with their body language. They're like, hey, can I pet your dog? While reaching over your dog, right? Before you said yes or anything. He like freaks out and he's like, oh, And once again, I'm confident that if I were like, hey, sit, good, he'll sit there and wait. He's not going to like go after them or anything, but he doesn't like it. So I've had to kind of be a dick and be like, oh, you know what? No, I'm sorry. And people do that whole thing of like, oh, no, dogs love me. I'm really good with them, and they're like still walking around me trying to get to him as I'm telling them no. Right. So because
they care about what they want more than
exactly
what you're telling them. Yeah.
Right. So you get to that point where it's like, can you fuck off, please? And then and then you're the bad guy and they walk away all in a huff. And it's like, well, listen, I don't mean to be mean or anything. Like, I don't want to be rude, but it's my job to protect my dog. I really don't care about your feelings. I'm out for him. That's advocating for your dog. And again, I want to be clear. I'm confident he would have been fine. He would have let them pet him and all would have been well. But he doesn't want it. So I'm not going to let you do it. Doing the things that you need to do consistently to make sure that the dogs understand that they can trust you. And the way that they trust you is making sure that they understand you've got their back.
Right. 100%. 100%. And I think a good thing to close this section off on, to talk about, is when we look at all of these: clear communication, scaffolding, proper socializing, advocating for dogs, there are certain clients that want to learn and they want to take it all the way. Right. And I have a client I trained 8 years ago who hits me up at least once or twice a year. Her pity is, doing great and she loves him. She loves her. No, different pity. And she hits me up and she goes, how do I elevate? Like, how do I do more? Like, what else can I do? And sometimes she's just so eager to get better, right? Like, it's almost those clients who are like, you should be a fucking dog trainer, right? And, some clients just have it in them and they ask and they do the research and they go for it. But a majority of dog owners is they just kind of get content with just enough, right? Well, the dog's not lunging anymore, so that's enough, right? Or the dog's listening better now, so that's enough, right? And so one of the big things that's important for us to kind of motivate them. You can't never force them, but you have to motivate them to try and continue to push the dog long term. And what we mean by push is, try new things. Try doing things with the dog that maybe before you could. This is what I mean, at least, and you give your 2 cents. Try doing things that you normally couldn't do with your dog. Try doing something different for the quality of your dog's life. Maybe taking them on a hike or taking them on a trip or doing certain things with them where the dog, where now your skills and your relationship now are tested, right? And especially if it's something valuable or if it's something pleasant for the dog, try them out, but also try not to get complacent with your rules and your boundaries. So that's what I think.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with you. But what I want to add to that is when that client reaches out, because I know what you mean. Clients reach out like, how can I, like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Like, how can I do more? Something I tell people is a combination of that. Like, here's how you can get creative in this way, like depending on that specific dog. But also, keep this in mind, you guys. Take note. If clients want to do more, sometimes they just have to do more. Keep drilling. Keep working plays. Keep working down. Do it for 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes. Same shit you've been doing, but keep it up. Because you can never, ever, ever underestimate just good old compound interest. My favorite example of almost anything explaining anything is just, you can do 100 push-ups in a day. Doesn't change much. But if you do 100 push-ups a day for a year, you change a ton. And you've never it was the same thing that you started with. 100 push-ups a day is 100 push-ups a day. It's not like, okay, now do it with one finger, It's just keep going and let it evolve you over time, right?
Right.
And then maybe at some point down the line, we can make some adjustments to keep it difficult. But there's a difficulty in it already because it's like sometimes,
Just
let's
being
say you've been doing
consistent.
it. Right. Because sometimes, let's say like 6 months in, you're good. It's not hard anymore, whatever. Sometimes it's like, oh shit, I forgot. Okay, well, I got to learn better time management. Oh damn, I ran out of, I ran out of time. Well, I've got to prioritize my day better. So there are skill sets that you learn even though you haven't changed anything yet. Just straight up repetition has a lot to teach you. And same thing with the dog. And a point that we really wanted to make clear was when you're the one drilling the dog. Again, I don't care if it's a simple series of sits and downs every single day. If you're the one drilling the dog, not only, again, does the dog understand how to be consistent over time, right? Grit, right? I can keep going. The owner understands how to push the dog. You become a better coach for your dog, a better leader for your dog. Some days my dog's just not feeling it. Like everybody knows how it is, right? Like my dog just on one today. Okay, figure it out. And when you figured it out, now you've learned a skill set of what you can use moving forward. When my dog's just not acting the same for whatever the reason, I know that I can make these adjustments that I've made in the past and gotten some positive result. Continuing to push is it's of innumerable benefit because it keeps the dogs fresh and engaged and it stops them from becoming stagnant. And what Brent said just before he kicked it off to me was, it's owners kind of decide what's enough and they just kind of stick with the bare minimum and then they slack on their rules. And here's something that I found as a dog trainer, you guys, that I think is an interesting point. Sometimes the owners don't even necessarily slack. They just stop progressing. But they didn't regress. They just stopped progressing. And the fascinating thing is, whether this is a good or a bad thing, I don't know. Sometimes what's enough today won't be enough tomorrow. And the owners did the exact same thing for like 4 or 5 months, but still, oh, you know what? He's been a little bit reactive again lately. Have you been doing all your drills? Yes. Have you been crating him? Yes. Have you been this and that? Yes. Okay, so then we've got to push it a bit more. So sometimes the bar moves around you, and it's like, I've been doing everything you said, but it's just not enough anymore.
Right.
So it's good to keep progressing for reasons like that as well.
Right. 100%. Now, kind of going back to the original prompt here, right? Like our clients, 100% of our clients only do less than 50% of what we say. I think that the point of this episode, in essence, is to how do we become better dog trainers in the teaching and the technical skill, in the troubleshooting. However, there is a little bit of a divide, right? There is a little bit of a divide. There are going to be certain things that even I remember in our episode with Sarah Bruschi and Denise Fenzi, it's been years since they've had to deal with certain pet dog issues that, it's not necessarily easy for them to answer in context certain questions, right? And so I just want to send an invite to anyone out in the Los Angeles area. If you guys need any advice or any help, if I can be of any help to you guys, feel free to reach out to me anytime through this podcast, just DTP or dogtrainerspodcast@gmail.com. I'm happy to help you any way I live out here in Los Angeles. Not claiming to be the best at things, but definitely there's been a lot of growth that I've been able to do in my career, and I'd love to help elevate the career or knowledge of someone else around me, because that's the only way we're going to get better, is if we share knowledge.
Same, you guys. I'm out here in Phoenix. If you need help, you let me know.
Sounds good, guys. Well, love you guys so much. Thank you guys again for listening to episode 1 of season 2. We're super excited for our guest, Say It Once Dog Training with Vinny Selma. If you guys know who he is, this guy has a huge freaking social media following. We totally got to dive into how the hell he did that. And he's also an amazing content creator, a really awesome dog trainer. He hosts these giant fucking group classes that I can't wait to dive into. But yeah, go ahead and check out Say It Once Dog Training. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week on season 2, episode 2. Again, my name is Brent Labrada, and that guy over there is Mariana Alvarez, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
We really hope that you enjoyed this episode and can't wait to be back with you guys. Be sure to follow us at Dog Trainers Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And don't forget to punch the hell out of that subscribe button and leave us a review.
Remember, guys, this is your podcast. You're the best listeners in the world, and we'll see you next time.